of what we often call it clean water or groundwater into the sanitary sewer. These flows are not needed to be treated at our plant, so we're trying to get those out of the sewer system, and so we don't have to treat them. A lot of questions people have asked is, what have other cities done? So there's a lot of different things online you can look at, but I found a study that a couple other cities have done. Basically, at least 25 other cities have done a similar program to what we're doing. That doesn't take into some of the smaller jurisdictions. I know like the city of Dyke and LaPorte City, they're doing some similar things also, but I think these other 25 are the closest to what we are doing in Waterloo. The purpose of this ordinance is to eliminate the foundation drain connection to the sanitary sewer system in order to mitigate the impacts caused by the sanitary sewer overflows. So to kind of boil this down to what EPA wants us to eliminate is, if most of you probably live in this area we're talking about, so that is usually our Hackett lift station is what we usually talk about. And that Hackett lift station is at the end of South Hackett there, and if you ever been down there, you might see a pump hooked to it, and it has a big pipe coming out of it, and it goes from the sanitary sewer into the storm sewer. When that's happening, that's what EPA doesn't want us to do. So we are taking sewer water, pumping it into the storm sewer, and putting it in the Cedar River. So now time to get into what is the foundation drain. The definition is a footing drain, footing tile, or any collection thing that collects groundwater, downspouts. A lot of people have different things like that in their yard. We often see, like in a patio, somebody might have a floor drain type thing that is connected in with this. But it's anything that collects rainwater, surface water, or groundwater and puts it into our sanitary sewer. So now the big two items here is the storm water and the sanitary sewer water. The storm water is where we want this water that we're talking about to go. We want it to either go into the ground and become groundwater, or we want it to be pumped to our storm sewer and then go directly to the Cedar River. The sanitary water, the easiest way to put it is water that goes down your sink, your toilet, your shower, your bath, those type of things that need to go to our treatment facility and be treated. So that's kind of the two separate things. One can go directly to the river, the other one needs to be treated, and then we dump it into the river. So the first big question is, the City Council adopted on October 27th an ordinance that incorporates this triangle, is the best way to put it, the triangle right here in the city of Waterloo. It's our service area, sanitary sewer service area 15 and 16. Those two sanitary sewer areas are our first priority as part of this ordinance. It incorporates about 4,000 properties, and the best way to describe it is from the Cedar River to Blackhawk Creek to the city limits of Cedar Falls. So it's that triangle right there. So that's the first thing. You got to be in this area to be part of this program. The question always comes up, so I'll try to answer it right now. What's next? That's a big question. I can speculate some things. I cannot tell you. It'll take city council approval to do that, but I think maybe we have identified 2 to 3 areas in the city that are in need of a fast-paced type removal process similar to this one, and then from there I can't tell you, but I believe there will be other districts after this. It's just where and when and that type of thing is not decided yet. Go ahead, let's see what you got.
Well, I'm just wondering, what is the big pull on this neighborhood that made this area as it is?
The reason we started with this one, it has the most sanitary sewer overflows. Our Hackett lift station does. Okay, sorry.
Is that mic working?
Just repeat what you said.
Okay, the reason we started with this district is it's our Hackett lift station. So the Hackett lift station has had the most sanitary sewer overflows in the city of Waterloo.
But what out of this whole area is
Yes.
pulling it towards that lift station? Is it cattle congress? Is it housing? Is it by chance Northwood Oil? Is it perchance whatever this is down here in this corner? I mean, what is the main majority that's pulling it towards that station?
When you say pulling it, do you mean how does it get there?
Pulling with, that you say is going towards that station.
Yes.
So what would be the biggest pull off of that? That you should.
The biggest cause, the
Yeah.
cause of it.
Yeah.
Probably one thing that goes into effect, the houses, the time the houses were built, anywhere between like 1940, 1950, up into 1980, these are very standard systems that have the floor drains with the tile dump over the top of them. And I think that area of town that's probably the majority of the houses are built in that timetable. I think that's one cause. That's one cause of it. The other one, maybe the clay soil over in that area, and also there seems to be a lot of groundwater in certain areas.
I think, were you asking, is there a company or what is the biggest contributor to the sanitary sewer in that area? Okay, just want to make sure. So that is the area that we're concentrating on right now, is this area right here. So the next always big question is, if you're in the area, that's step number one. Step number two is, am I connected? This picture right here is a typical installation of what Bob was just talking about. The sewer comes in, typically the tile come in the both sides, has a floor drain in the bottom. It's typically a 1 foot by 1 foot type pit. And if you have that, your footing drains are connected to the sanitary sewer. You got 1 and 2, you're set. So very typical. AECOM did a study for the city here over the last few years, and they figured that 80 to 90% of the houses in this area have this exact thing right here. And by what we've seen so far, I think that 90% is probably pretty close to it's at that higher level. 90% typically have these. These homes are all basically built during the same time period, and a lot of them were built by the same builder. So I want to kind of stress, there is other ways you can be connected. This is just the most common, and it's the most common by far, but there is a lot of other ways, and you know, some of them can be very easy, some of them can be very difficult to figure out, and that's where Bob comes into effect. So if you don't have this, if you have something different than that, we need to engage a plumber and get them involved and get Bob involved, and we try to figure out how it's connected. So the homeowner process. So you live in this area and you know you're connected. What happens? So the city is notifying all the people in this area. We have started sending out letters already. We're going to try having them all out by January 1st. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, most of them will go out. We're trying to stagger going out a little bit just because the amount of calls Cindy takes after we send 1,000 letters out is quite a bit. So we're trying to stagger those a little bit just to help Cindy in getting her phone calls. Next thing would be to, if you know you're connected, you contact a contractor, meet with them, ask them for a price to remove, to take care of this for you. We have met twice with contractors, kind of informing them how this works, how to do it, the process involved, all that kind of stuff. One question always comes up, are they going to charge me to come out and look at it? We have not talked to a contractor yet that is charging, and we've met with, I think there's 106 on that list. Between our two meetings, I think we had about 95 at those two meetings. So I feel pretty comfortable saying they're not charging to come out and look at this. They have a lot of work to do over the next 2 years, so they know that that work's there. After you get an estimate, we prefer you get a couple estimates at least. It's not a mandatory thing. We just always, the more estimates you can get, the better bid process you go through, and that's what we recommend. Hire the contractor to perform the work. The contractor will take out all necessary permits, will schedule inspections, and take care of all that for the homeowner. The minimum requirements for disconnection. We have basically kind of tried to lump these into 3 different types of connections. This is not all of them by any means, but it's the 3 most common that we see. So the first one is to leave that circle right there, and that box represents that picture that we looked at a little while ago. It is your box you have on your floor, the 2 pipes coming in the side, which is typical. There's a lot of them that have 3, there's a lot of them that have 4, but typically we see 2 drain tile pipes coming in, is to cut the concrete back from that box on both sides, connect to those pipes, and go to a sump pump pit, and then pump that water outside. A lot of people ask, well, how much concrete do I have to take out? How much do I have to make this? That is up between you and the contractor. Some people set that pit right beside that other pit. Other people take it to a wall. That's however you want your basement to be. Go ahead.
Do you have copies of this?
I think it's-
Do you have copies of this documentation you can distribute?
She has some, and it's actually, this is on our city website too. So we didn't bring copies of everything. There's a lot more information on our city website. All the information you got, plus there's a lot more on there. And there is also a question and answer type thing that'll be on there very shortly. So there's some videos of the 3 installations that we have here that are, one is on the city website right now, and we're working on the other 2, so they'll be on there shortly. But the 3 installations, they're very similar, just a little bit different. So this is the typical, the basic one. So you're leaving that whole area here in place and just grabbing those pipes outside of it and taking it to a sump pump pit.
I have somebody put that hole in there, and I put my own pump in there.
When you say your own
Sump
pump,
pump.
He needs to buy it
I
himself.
buy my own sump pump, it's in the hole. Pump, pump.
Yep. So right now, the way the ordinance is written is a licensed plumbing contractor has to put in do the work, is the best way to put it. Now, I say that, they have to pull all the permits, they have to do all the work, but I've talked to several contractors already, and, plumbing contractors don't like tearing out concrete, things like that. So I had a gentleman that called, he has 17 properties, rental properties, and he asked, can I work with, I have maintenance guys that can tear out concrete. Can I work with my plumbing contractor to tear out the concrete, put the concrete back, and they come in and do the pumps and stuff? And I said, if you work that out with your plumbing contractor, we don't care. You know, that's the type of, you have to work with them. So,
You know, I don't want to do the work. I
Yep.
want to set the pump and all that. Pump.
yeah.
I ain't talking about taking out the cement. I'm just talking about adding, putting this pump.
I would say you'd have to have well, I should say this two ways. To be part of the rebate program, you have to have a licensed plumber do it. Now, if you don't want to be rebated for that, I would say you could do it yourself. That's the key difference here. And I made that mistake last time we had this. I said homeowners couldn't do it. Well, that's really not true. You can do it today. You could do it a year ago. You'll be able to do it 2 years from now. The homeowner, as part of this program, right now cannot do it. So if you wanted to do yours and not receive any money, you could do the whole thing yourself and not receive any rebates through the city. So.
I had somebody come out and see what it was. And he's gonna do it with the 2,000, it's allowed.
Sure.
Then he says, put the pump in, it's like gonna be $1,500, we're gonna have to, I'm paying $1,500 for a pump. I'm not stupid.
I'd get another estimate. Go ahead.
You said it had to be a licensed contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean I have to purchase all the materials from the licensed contractor? Or can I just buy my own pump? That's what this gentleman talked about. Because when his pump goes bad, fails, he's gonna run down to Menards and buy another one. He's not gonna call in another contractor.
I would say you have to work that out with your plumbing contractor, who buys the material and that kind of stuff. Typically, I would say they want to sell that as part of the package, but that's something you need to work out with whoever you hire to do the work.
I've got a sink, upstairs sink, and my washer dryer goes directly into that drain.
Yep.
So how does that work? That's not considered clean water, right?
Yep. In this situation right here, all we're doing is removing that clean water and leaving that pit exactly as it is. Those things will spell dump in there.
Where did they go?
They go down sanitary sewer. So in this situation here, we're just removing 2 pipes that go in there. Yep, typically everybody's laundry goes in there. If you have a basement sink or a shower down there, sometimes those are tied into them too. So that's why we're not touching that pit. We're leaving it as is, and getting it on the outside of that. The 2 pipes that we need to disconnect and putting those in some kind of pit.
Well, and one too, this is kind of minimum requirements.
Yep.
This is option 1, minimum requirements where, yeah, everything else can stay there. The floor drain can stay there. Indirect drains from other sources can stay there. All we're trying to do is intercept the storm water, direct it to the sump pump pit, and put it up and out of the sanitary sewer. Just minimum requirements.
So option 2 is very similar to option 1. It's basically got the same theory behind it. The only difference is they keep that pit, they tear that pit out, and then re-pour it back. So when you're done, you still have a pit there. They just had to tear it out to get it the way it should be. And these are typically based on how we see it done, is how we base these. Contractors already do it this way. That's why we're showing you these ways, because this is how they do it every day. So real quick, we're going to show, it's just a quick video about this number 2 installation.
Bob Osgood, I'm the plumbing inspector in Waterloo. Today we're going to go through one of the options that we have with the new Waterloo program that's eliminating the foundation drains. And if we could go, this is a typical setup for houses built in the 1950s to the 1980s. What they did is they have a recessed drain with the storm tile, the foundation tile dumping over the top of the drain, which in turn during times of high precip, heavy rainfall, overloads the sanitary system with non-sewage, with clear water. We're trying to eliminate that. What we're trying to do is separate the two systems. Today, what we're going to go through, this is one of the options where we leave the floor drain where it is. The floor drain is going to stay exactly where it is. We're going to expose the concrete around the outside of the floor drain. We're going to take the stormwater tile and move it over to the corner. We're going to add a sump pump pit with a pump and a pipe that's going to go up the wall and out. When we're all said and done, both systems will be separated. You're going to have your stormwater, your clear water going up and out the back of the house. The sanitary system will be completely separate. That's kind of our goal, and we'll come back after they take the concrete up and expose it. Okay, we're back again. They have the concrete out, they have the pipe exposed. As you can see that they tie it on to the existing footing drain. They tied it on, extended the line over into the corner, and tied it into the new sump pump. It's wrapped, should have rock all the way around it. The sump pump pit should have rock all the way around it. And we're ready to go. The next step is to make sure they're going to make sure, and they'll rock the tile up. They'll form the box back up and pour everything back. And our next shot should be the finished product with the pump installed and the pipe running up and out. Okay, we're back. The contractor already has the floor put back in place, the cement. The two systems now are separated. As you can see in the floor drain pit, they cemented it back. There's no openings in there. It should be two completely separate systems. You got your sanitary system that goes to the sanitary sewer through the floor drain, and then also the new system with the new floor put in, new sump pump installed, new pit, the pipes running up and out. It runs out into the backyard. Code requires it to drain away from the building right now. If there's a storm sewer available, it might be a good idea to hook it into the storm sewer at this time. They still have to finish up a little bit. They have a clamp. They need to tighten up a clamp, and then also the electrician needs to come in and wire an outlet for the new sump pump. But basically, we're done. The systems are separated, and we're ready to work.
So that is the second option that we have been talking about. It's really similar to the first one. The only real difference is that the first one, they leave the pit totally in place. The second one, they remove that pit and then pour it back. The third option that we see quite often, it is where they take the pit, they take that pit that we talked about right here, they totally remove that pit, they put new plumbing in here and bring a floor drain up to grade level. This floor drain, this is totally gone then, and you have a sump pump pit and the floor drain left in the basement. This one does require additional plumbing beyond the other two. Where we talked about the plumbing here before, they never touched. Now they have to redo this plumbing here. It's owner preference. Any of those three work. We see all three of these done quite often. So,
what's the advantage of doing that?
This would be, I guess, the 100% foolproof way to know that there's no water that's going to get into that pit somehow. The other is that pit, it has a cover over it. It gets dirty from time to time. I have one at my house. Yep, every once in a while the thing gets lint, and stuff from the wash machine, and you have to clean the thing out. This just eliminates that whole pit. Cleans it up a little. Cleans it up a little bit. What we've been telling a lot of the contractors is, give them options here. Say, hey, if you want me to get rid of that whole pit, it's X amount of dollars. The other one's X amount of dollars. That type of thing. So we've been trying to tell them to, work with the owners on that type of stuff. So those are the three most common options we see. So now you've had, you're in the area, you've hired a contractor, he's performed the work. So how do you know if the work's been done and it's been inspected and everything's correct? So when Bob comes out to do your inspection, there's a couple different things. First thing, he's going to leave one of these stickers right here on your electrical panel and sign off, check mark, sign off date when he's out there and when it's done. So that's the first thing that everybody will know when they're done and signed off. The other is a certificate of compliance. So every property that's been signed off will get one of these. We will keep a copy in our office, and then the homeowner will get a copy of this for their records. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but those are the two ways you can kind of tell. So everybody always asks, so cost of the program. So we have 4,000 properties in this District 1. We estimate about 3,500 of those are in non-compliance. The city is rebating up to $2,000. So this project is costing $7 million for the city of Waterloo to take on. So how do I get the $2,000 back? That's the big question. Once the work is complete and inspected, the owner will have to sign a foundation drain disconnection form waiver. The contractors have those. The front page is theirs that they sign and send in to the city of Waterloo. The back page is the homeowners to sign. They will submit that form to the city of Waterloo Building Inspection Department, and we will rebate the contractor up to $2,000 on the project. So that's an important part. The check actually goes to the contractor, not the owner of the property. So what qualifies for the $2,000 reimbursement? So a couple things. Obviously, the three things we just seen in those things are the basic that would qualify. So the removal of footing drains, downspouts. I should probably eliminate more on downspouts. So some people at their properties have a downspout that comes down the side of the property and is connected into a tile. That tile then goes to the sanitary sewer. They can be connected on the outside of the house, multiple different ways, but that is another source of infiltration in the system is downspouts. Connection to any footing drains to the storm sewer. So if you have a sump pump It's being pumped outside. If you want to connect it to the storm sewer, you can connect it. Typically, those are out in front of the yard in the street. Some are in the back houses. It kind of depends on where you live. So if you're interested in doing that, you need to contact us, and we can find out where a storm sewer is, if you're able to connect to it, and if you even have a storm sewer. So those are all options that you can talk with the plumber about. Sure.
In this area, there's been a lot of road construction, resurfacing, new curb and gutter, asphalt, paving, whatever. Why wasn't this addressed during that time frame when it would have been cheaper to connect the footing right into the storm sewer?
So on the newly constructed roads, what they put is a tile in, and that tile is where you can connect into. When you mean, why didn't they do it? I guess I can't answer that for sure. I mean, you would have to have a sump pump, and you'd have to do this whole process at that time.
Pull from your line that's going into the sanitary now, you just and run it right into the storm sewer.
As long as you've got the fall.
Yeah, typically the fall wouldn't be there. Sewers are usually typically a lot deeper than storm sewer. Typically a storm sewer is probably only 4 foot deep. So it would never probably work to gravity it. That's what you're talking about, gravity fall to the storm sewer. Then the last one is any plumbing that's associated with moving that floor drain up. So that's typically option 3 is what we're talking about on that very last one. So cost to a property owner. Any cost that incurs over $2,000. So the city is rebating of $2,000. So if the project is $2,800, we have a $2,000 footing drain disconnection that will be paid by the city, and then there would be an additional $800 for, I put ceramic tile floor patch. So the total bill is $2,800. The city will pay $2,000. The homeowner would be responsible for the additional $800. Yes. So that, that's always the big question. Where did the $2,000 come from? And today Bob inspected one in the program, and it was $2,150. Yep. I hear a lot of those, and I haven't seen one yet. I'm not saying they're not out there, because there possibly could be some large amounts, but I haven't seen one yet. I would say, I think the biggest one I've actually, I haven't seen it. I talked to a gentleman on the phone, and his was, I think it was $3,800. His issue was he had some asbestos tile in his basement that they had to work with, and it was $1,800 to get that asbestos tile removed. So that's the most I've talked to anybody and heard of is that one right there. I would say $1,800 to $3,000 is what we've seen, and it depends a lot on contractor. It depends a lot on that video we shown. I think that was like 14 feet, or if you're putting the pit right next to it, obviously the more concrete to tear out, the more cost is going to be involved and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Okay, when you hire a contractor, does it have to be one of these on these pages, or can it be someone else professionally, and then,
As long as they're licensed, it
So-
doesn't matter, right?
That list right there is all the licensed plumbers we have in the city of Waterloo. So,
What about like with deconstruction?
yep,
They do this type of-
so I'll get to that here in 1 second. Yeah, I will. Let me go over that right now. That's a good point. So there's typically three permits involved in this type of installation. So we have a brand new permit is a footing drain disconnection permit. A general contractor, a plumber can take out those permits. So, and the most important part of that is that's where the $2,000 go. Now, that doesn't mean that, I think you said McGee or whoever, they have to hire a plumber to do plumbing work. They have to hire an electrician to do electrical work, just like any other time they would be doing that work. But the footing drain disconnection permit, McGee or whoever, a general contractor, can pull that permit. It's just they can't do the plumbing work or the electrical work.
So it's not a problem to have someone else.
Correct.
On this sheet.
Correct.
Is that correct?
She's having her house piled
Correct.
around
Yep.
5 inches.
Yep. So, yep.
What happens if you have a duplex? On both sides, you got water running into both sides.
Yep. You mean, when you say it, I guess I'm not sure. You have to do both sides if that's what you're asking?
That's right.
Yes. And are you asking, do you get 2,000 or 4,000?
For each side, or-
2,000 per side. Correct. Yep. So, here is kind of the nutshell of this whole thing. This is the program that is a 2-year program. So, in January 1st, 2017, this program ends. And I say that, but somebody will ask, well, what if my plumber can't get there till January 6th? We will work with you on that. That's not a problem. We want the people that want to comply to comply. So that will not be an issue. So after that time frame, but this is the important part of this whole thing, there will not be a $2,000 to rebate after that January 1st, 2017. And in addition to that, there will be a $50 a month fee assessed to the property. One other thing that will happen is you will be listed as a non-compliant sewer user, and that will be recorded at the Blackhawk County Courthouse. We're not saying you can't sell your house, but I'm assuming that will come up on an abstract search, and there would have to be some negotiation at that point. So. Go ahead, Bob.
The question came up, and I know we've talked about it before, is there a program up if it's over the $2,000 that the homeowner can assess it to their taxes?
As the ordinance was adopted, no, there is not. We are looking into several different options. I just can't answer that 100% at this time. We are looking at that. I have when I talk to the plumbers, I've told them that if they run into these high dollar ones, which, like I said, I haven't had somebody call me yet on, we want to know about it and we want to be involved in that. So, like I said, we're kind of monitoring that as we go, and we'll see if something needs to be adjusted for financial assistance down the road. That's pretty much the presentation, so if you have questions, I'll open it up.
Typically, some pumps are notorious for bringing radon into the house. Have you guys looked into that at all? And is that going to be treated like by a plumber that, for example, sees asbestos containing material? It's going to cost an extra $1,800 to get a radon remediation system?
So there's a couple different things with the radon. So if you currently have a system in place and you have this done, you will need, what?
Which 90% of us do not.
Correct. So if you don't have anything, it's not going to make a difference. I would recommend getting a sealed pit, because probably when you go to sell your house, they're going to test that radon level if you have never tested it. And then if you have to put one in, you're probably 3/4 of the way there by having that pit already there so they can hook that radon mitigation system into. So that's the first thing. So If you have nothing right now, you're basically the same. You're probably making one step closer to having one, but we don't regulate radon mitigation. Typically, it's done by the sale of property. So that's probably the first thing. The second thing, though, is if you do have a radon mitigation system, and it's hooked to that floor drain that we're talking about, which we do see some that way, you are going to need to repipe that radon system over to this sump pump pit. And that is typically done by a radon person. A plumber will not do that. And there isn't a whole lot of radon people in the area, and we have talked with them about that similar thing. And the plumbers say, they don't want to touch it and that type of thing. So one thing we are recommending to the plumbers, and you as homeowners should know, we're recommending that they put, Bob, maybe you can explain this better.
When they run the tile over to the pit, they can put install a T in and bring a riser up, a solid like 3-inch riser just above the floor, put a cap on it, and I'm thinking put a magic marker and say future radon connection. At the time of construction, it's very, very simple and shouldn't cost very much, but if you ever need it down the road, it's a perfect time. We've talked to the radon mitigation people, and they think it's a great idea, something like that. They could also hook into your sealed sump pump lid at that time, but if you had a cap like that, it'd be great.
Go ahead, back there.
Is there a possibility that by virtue of putting these new pits in our basements, that even though we had little to no radon readings, we may now have radon in our basement? Is there any recourse to the homeowner in that case?
I don't think there is. If you put a sealed pit in, it should be better, because you're connecting the pipes that went into that pit that you have is what you're doing. So that is where the radon comes, is through these tile that we're taking out. That's where they draw the air from to get it out of the ground. So right now, if you have one of those 1 foot by 1 foot pit, the only thing that's sealing that is whatever you have on top of it, and typically it's a metal grate with some holes in it, or a wood one, or something like that. When you take these out, it should make it better if you put it over here and put it in a sealed pit. So that's two things we're recommending. Sealed pit, it's not a requirement, a sealed pit, and to do what Bob was talking about by putting a stub up for a future radon mitigation system.
I don't know.
It would be very, very, I don't know what I would guess. Very, very small amount. Yeah. You asked last time, you gotta wait.
I looked at my, I don't have that pit.
Okay.
By any means, I got an 8-inch, no tile going into it. Scott looked at it. When I sign up to have you come look, how does the city determine whether I'm hooked up on the outside or?
Good question. That's
I think you're one of the ones we're gonna TV.
it's a good question.
What's your address?
1230 W Avenue.
I think it is Scott from All Star.
I just talked to him tonight.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a different one I talked to him about.
We go and look at it. We've run into some before that it's possible it could be hooked up underneath the concrete floor and we can't see it.
Yeah.
There are certain signs we'll look for, double cleanouts potentially, or other signs in the basement where we can see it. I know there's an area of town that we found out, depending on the neighborhood, that doesn't have any tile underneath the basement floor. They don't have any sump pumps. They don't have anything.
I don't believe I do.
They don't have anything, and we're kind of getting to know that area. Those houses were built in a certain time. They were all built alike. But worst case scenario is we may have to TV the line just to verify that there's nothing hooked up underneath the floor.
Okay.
See, it's funny, I live 2 houses away. He doesn't have it, and I got it.
I'm part of the 10%.
Yeah. It really determined who built the house is a lot of it. That's what it came down to, is some contractors did this way, other contractors did it other way, so. Go ahead.
I don't remember right off the top of my head, what was the year that the EPA mandated this was going to come down the road? 70s sometime? Or?
You know, I'm not an EPA expert by any means, so I'm not going to lead you on to believe I am. So, yeah, it's the Clean Water Act is what started this. It was a long time ago, 76, 76, I believe. You know, I think.
Homes built after that date really weren't in compliance to this EPA. Our house falls in that.
Correct.
I'm curious as to why they were so
From
allowed.
76 to 80, something.
So, and there's another whole issue with that is the plumbing code also that allowed you to do this up to a certain date. That date is hard to describe because the plumbing code was, it said things like, if you have a storm sewer, you have to connect to it. But if you don't, you can still connect to the sanitary sewer. So that date is hard to find set in stone. We think it's about 79, in that range there, 80, that Waterloo started enforcing this a different way. So.
I also think, so the Clean Water Act was passed. It takes a lot of regulation to be written before it becomes
Correct.
effective. So just because the EPA passed a law in 76 doesn't mean the next day everybody had to comply with it. That took years and no federal enforcement. That's why it's coming to us now.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a trickle-down effect. The EPA started with the largest cities first and moved on to the smaller cities. You know, it's just kind of one of those things that this is where we're at right now. And like I said, I'm not an EPA expert. My job here is to get 4,000 people to disconnect from the sanitary sewer. The EPA thing's probably a lot longer than a 2-hour project.
So the 4,000 do this, it's supposed to be done within 2 years?
Correct.
Okay, and then what study will be done to see what improvement would be, how that would be handled?
So we are working on a study area. We have kind of looked at 150 properties inside this area that we're going to try to use as a study area. We have a couple different ways of doing it. We may put timers and flow meters on these pumps so we know how much people are pumping. Obviously, we can tell by putting a flow meter on the sanitary sewer and a flow meter on the storm sewer and, you know, do that math. I'm also not a engineer and a calculation person, but we are looking at different ways to do it, and I think we found an area of town in this area that we want to kind of work with those homeowners to have that study area. We've had a lot of different ideas. I don't think we've nailed down 100% yet, but we're still working on that. But there will be, study done on a certain amount of houses to extrapolate over the 4,000 plus over the whole city. Go ahead, Forrest. You waited long enough.
Yeah. I've had 3 estimators in my home so far. None of them have even mentioned a sealed sump pump pit. I think it would be a good idea if you mention to them that they may want to mention to the consumers.
I'm betting those 3 contractors for us have a sealed sump pump pit. Do you know?
I know one does not.
Okay.
The other 2 haven't got this done.
Okay. Go ahead.
Is the sealed pit a prerequisite to getting the?
No.
No.
Nope. It's just a recommendation we're making, and it's simply because of radon. I mean, there's no other reason for it. I shouldn't say that. Sometimes, if they get dirty and cleaning them out and stuff like that, it can be a benefit too. But, so, go ahead.
I go out and get my 2 or 3 bids and stuff, and pick a contractor that I'm going to use. They'll be responsible for pulling the permits. They'll be responsible for filling out the paperwork to get reimbursed. What will I I have to do? Will I have to call you to have you come in?
Nope.
No, the contract.
Contractor does all that. The only thing you have to do is sign that piece of paper that they're gonna have for you.
And any check that needs to go above the 2,000?
Correct. Yep.
Another question. If, I think, I'm not sure, I've got to go look, I've got a manhole cover in my backyard, I think it might be storm. Does it cost anything extra, excluding the contractor running pipe out there? Does it cost anything extra to tap into that? Do we need another permit?
We would have to look into that. Typically, they probably wouldn't want, the engineering department wouldn't want private storm lines tapped into manholes. But,
Well, I'm just saying, there's a manhole there, that means there's a storm tile there, 6 or 7 feet underground.
it'd just be something we'd have to look into to see. You don't know what it is or where it is or how deep it is or.
I'm just worried about having a pipe coming out the back of my house and, you know, the idea of cold weather's coming and trying to pump water out of a frozen pipe.
Yep.
I have issues with my high efficiency furnace not liking to draw air through because it's on the north side and it's frost. I'm just worried about stuff like that.
Okay. It's definitely a possibility. Obviously, we need to look and see, you know, what that pipe is, what it's serving, and that kind of stuff, so.
Neighbors backyard have got the manhole cover there, but we just had new sleeves put in.
Yep.
And I don't know if you want to put something in behind those sleeves.
Those sleeves were in the sanitary sewer. That's the sanitary sewer. So if what he's talking about, that's a whole nother project that is being done as part of this. It's the slip lining of this area right here. So you guys probably know in the neighborhood, people, they've been slip lining the sanitary sewer, and a lot of them are behind the house in this area. And typically, the sewer is behind the house, the storm sewer is behind the street, because typically it's an intake on the street is where a lot of people, you talk about a manhole, they tie into the intakes is a lot more common than tying into a manhole. So, street intakes, yep.
Baltimore that was running a tile or sump pump. And then during the summertime, it gets kind of greenish, slimy, and there was a guy riding a bicycle and he got some busted up pretty good.
And there is definitely some property owners that we would love to have tie into that storm sewer because they pump a lot of water. And it would, you know, it helps the neighborhood, it helps, you know, all sorts of things. So we're encouraging people if they can, and they have storm sewer, to hook into it. I think there will be more to come on the storm sewer and connection with sump pumps and that kind of stuff. So I think he was up first. I missed him last time. Go ahead.
You need a dedicated circuit?
Yes. That's a good question. So his question was, for the pump, you're putting in a new sump pump and it needs an electrical outlet to run. Does that have to be a dedicated circuit? And the answer is yes, it does have to be a dedicated circuit for that outlet, for that pump. Correct. Go ahead.
I don't know how many people fall into this, but if you've never ever before had any water problems in your basement and you don't have a sump pump, now you have a sump pump, it seems to me there's potential now for water in your basement. What recourse do we have with that? I mean, some pumps can fail at times. Is that an insurance issue then at that point, or how do we
Correct.
deal with that?
And that's another thing we have talked to the contractors about, battery backups, things like that. You know, there's all sorts of technology out there for things like you're talking about. But, you know, everybody asks, well, what about a new house? And I say, well, they're going to be just like you are as soon as you do your thing. Because that's how a new house is built today. They have a sump pump. They have to pump that water out in their yard or connect it to the storm sewer. So you'll be like a new house when you're done. So, I can't answer that 100%. Obviously, there's a pump involved. Pumps fail, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, they do, there's no question of that. You know, buy the best pump you can. Battery backup is highly recommended. There's all sorts, there's alarms that can go on them. You know, I think I've seen things where it calls your cell phone when the alarm goes off, things like that. I mean, so there's all sorts of stuff out there. Water flow backups and all different stuff, so. Go
You
ahead.
mentioned backyard several times.
Yep.
Can you not pump it in the front yard or the side yards?
Yes, you can. So the way the city code works is it says it cannot cause a nuisance. So what we've kind of always done in the past, because Bob deals with these all the time, is basically if you're 10 foot off your property, we would say you're usually not causing a nuisance on your neighbor. Now, there's always an exception to that, because we have people that pump, you know, we've seen people with 4 sump pumps in their basements pumping water. Obviously, 10 foot, that thing's probably shooting 20 feet beyond that. So there is, you know, some other things, but so what the ordinance comes down to is you cannot cause a nuisance on the city streets, or you cannot cause a nuisance on your neighbor. And what we've always kind of did is 10 foot rule on that. So, yeah, side, back, front, you know, kind of depends on how your yard's laid out and different things. And it needs to flow away from your house. You have to have fall away from your house.
Extra we pay, how much of the job would cost?
There's just too many variables. What I can tell you today is the one that Bob inspected was $2,150. Yes, I think that $2,000 is a fair price and will do a large majority of the jobs. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to do all of them. Every situation's different. Like I said, how you want to do your basement is kind of up to you. But and you know, I've had, like I said, the other thing is you can work with your contractor. Maybe you're capable and want to tear out the concrete. Maybe you want to put the concrete back and have something a little different. You know, that type of stuff. So that probably is another good point. One thing that has came up question-wise is, what about if I have a lot of water, and these people that have a lot of water know they have a lot of water, what if one pump won't pump out my basement? And there's basements out there that are like that, I guarantee it. And nobody's shaking their head, so you're probably not in this room, because you would know it if you do it. You know, you need to work with your contractor on developing what your needs are and how much water volume you're going to have. We've seen a lot of 2-pit systems in those really wet areas where they put 2 pits in side by side to help collect that water and pump it out, those type of things. So just to make people aware of that. Yep.
Last couple of years on Walcott Road, we had that flood in our street.
Okay.
And we got a lot of backwater coming in from the street.
Mm-hmm.
Would that 2 sump pumps eliminate that problem?
When you say the backwater coming in, was that coming in through your sewer, or was it
Coming through our sewer and
through your
from
sewer?
the street.
So in that case, I would probably not, I mean, I don't think the pumping out is the issue. I would probably recommend you put a back valve, or Bob, maybe you can explain it better.
Backwater valve.
Backwater. You might be better off to go with something like option 3.
And that would be covered underneath the reimbursement program too.
Just eliminate.
Well, either a round hole in your drain, there's flapper valves that you can put in the actual drain coming into the house. There's scissor valves where you manually open and close them. There's a variety of different things that you can do.
Last couple of years, our street flooded, there's a lot of people got water in their basement.
Hopefully, when it's all said and done and everything's done, we won't have those sewer backups anymore. I think, that a foundation foundation drain is contributing to the backups, and it just spirals out of control. So if we can eliminate the stormwater, the clear water out of the sanitary sewer, we'll get away from the sanitary sewer backups.
That's one thing, if you looked in option 3, I didn't talk about it, but when you're getting into the plumbing, that's actually required. It actually has a backwater valve, that's what this is right here. It's a backwater valve, and then you have to have access to maintain that. So that's what I would more recommend in your situation. And you still may need 2 pumps. I don't know what your situation is, but this is probably would take care of more of those backup issues that you would have.
That would be a little bit more extra if we could get that.
These are pricey little devils for what they are. I mean, there's some money involved in those little guys, but if it helps your problem, it's an awful good time to do it because you got the concrete tore up, the pipes are there, just a matter of buying the thing and putting it in.
One thing too, and I don't know if I should go into this, but what you're talking about, the way it is before, if this sanitary sewer, if this backed up, there's nowhere for your stormwater to go inside your house. So it's gonna come in the house. Where now, if this sanitary sewer backs up and say you got a new system in it, backs up, it gets to this valve, the valve shuts, and your sump pump line will still pump the stormwater up and out of your basement. And your basement will stay dry after the system's built. That's the goal.
Early on, you mentioned a lot of these pits have from 2 to 4 lines coming into them. I've got 1. Does that sound right?
Yep. It's a combination of all. Typically, we see 2. The 2, they go around the outside of the foundation. 1 comes in each side. When we see 3 and 4, typically it's some sort of lateral run underneath the concrete floor type of situation.
I'm going to follow up. So many different options on what people have. If a licensed contractor comes in, he's going to be able to look at my pit and say, here's what you need, and then satisfy the requirements?
Yes. Yep. And that's why
They come out and say, oh, he screwed up major or oh.
Bob will take care of that before that happens. Yeah. And that's actually why 3 days after the ordinance was adopted, we met with the contractors first. And we've met twice with them now. So, that was our first key, is to get them on board so they know what they're doing. And like I said, a lot of these contractors are already doing this. I mean, Bob inspects these every day. It's not part of a program, but people just do it. So,
So you're starting in this zone, are you gonna go to another zone?
I can't answer that 100%. It takes city council approval to do that. So, I don't have the authority to say yes, but the guy behind you would. Yeah. but if you ask me the question, do we need to do more in this? I would definitely say yes. Correct. I can tell you that I'm very comfortable to say that there will be more. I just don't know the time frame. I don't know the cost. Could the program change? Yes. There's a lot of different variables. How we inspect them is probably going to change some of that. The reason this area we chose the way we chose to do it by having the plumbing contractors involved is because so many of these are exactly the same. And when you get in other areas of town, every house is different. I mean, if you walk down your block, you're probably going to see the exact same thing the whole way down your block. If you get to another area of town, every single house is different. So I think the program might change and the time frame might change, but I think it'll basically be the same program throughout the city. So I can't answer that 100% because I don't have that authority to say that, but that's the best I can tell you. Correct.
Constantly up the street on the corner, and water just ran down the street. So that would put the stormwater up, am I right? And they came out many times. And still, I don't know what to expect. How's that?
Any other questions?
basement work done this summer, about 4 months before the ordinance was passed, and I was told since I was tearing up my floor, I should have the drain done, which I did, and I have option 3. Are you looking at any options or anything for reimbursing those that have had it done?
We are. I'm going to say we are, and Michelle's frowning at me, but I know I'll be honest with you, most angry people I've had call me are people like you that just got yours done. And I would be in the same boat. So I'm not disagreeing with you. But, if we go back 2 years, there'll be somebody that did theirs 2 years and 2 months ago. So it's a date. So I don't know. I know some city council people have been getting kind of nudged about that. And so I
If it was done before the ordinance was passed.
we did talk about going back in dates, and what we came up with is from the day it was started. So like I said, until that ordinance is passed, I don't have that control until it's passed. And so, I can't, they are looking at it though. And I don't know, like I said, if it would be 6 months, 2 months, 10 years, I just don't know that. And I don't know if it'll ever come to either. The way the ordinance is written right now, October 27th was the date.
If anybody wants to know how it is, I'll tell them $2,000.
Go ahead.
Do the contractors expect us to pay this up front, and then they will be being reimbursed?
No.
So we won't have to pay that, say it costs $2,500, we only pay the contractor $500?
Correct. They are going to get their money from us. They're all aware of that. They know that process and how it's going to work. I think that's best for every party involved. We looked at different options of giving that to the homeowners, giving it to the contractors. It counts as income for you. We thought this was the simplest way to do it.
Would you guys be sending out 4,000 letters to the different people?
Correct.
To tell them?
Yep. We sent out 1,000 last Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday was the first ones that went out. I'll be sending out another 1,000 Monday morning, and then probably another 1,000. We're going to try getting them all out before January 1st, but I don't want people to get them on Christmas Eve or whatever. So we're going to try getting them out before that a little bit, so at least they have some time to contact us and that kind of stuff. So.
Do you know that fee for doing that is deductible on your
Michelle, did you hear that question?
I did not.
Ask your question to her. She might.
Is that fee, have the difference between 2,000 and whatever it turns out, is that deductible on income tax? Since it's not really our problem, it's the problem.
Well, actually, it is your problem, but it would not be deductible in the current year, but when you sold your house, you can add that to the cost of your home, so that's where, and if you have a rental property, then it would also go through when you sell the property.
You only get 2 for us.
Yeah, I can always get you some other things. I had a lady call me, she has a rental house.
Yep.
Her understanding is she's got to get a plumber to look, and then she's got to get the city to look. She would like to not disturb the renter and have it done at one time by someone who can say, I've been in the house, I'm quite sure it has no footing drains. She'd like to do it in one shot. Is there some way to get that done?
If she doesn't have that pit and she doesn't think she has it, call Cindy and we can figure it out.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I'm done, so if you have any other questions, Bob will be around.